I'm delighted I have been given this opportunity to moderate this panel on the decarbonization of the mobility sector. Obviously, this is one of the topics that we could discuss at length during hours or days, but luckily for you, it's going to last 45 minutes only. And luckily for you, I'm surrounded by specialists with each of them having their different background. So I'm going to start asking questions immediately. I'm turning to Anne. What are the decarbonization methods that you're currently seeing?
Thanks, Darko. So broadly speaking, I would say that we have three main types of solutions for decarbonizing transport. I would start with electrification of transport, which is the most ready and near-term solution out there, whether we are talking about electric cars, ferries, or bus. The second one is fuel-based decarbonization. It's mostly for heavy transport or long-distance transport. So we're talking about using clean fuel, hydrogen, SAF, biofuels such as ammonia or e-methanol. So this is a bit longer term because most equipments will not be ready before 25, but it's definitely one of the key drivers of decarbonization. The third one is more a change in usage and approach to transport. It can be simply to move more volumes of freight or passengers from road to rail, for instance. But more importantly, for me, it's about developing new solutions such as mobility as a service, shared usage of cars or bikes or the likes. So we have all the solutions, and of course, each comes with its own specific infra needs. So for electrification, you will need gigafactories to produce the electric batteries. You need the whole EV charger infra also to roll out. And I think that there's a number of 80 billion of investment needs for Europe to actually be ready for a demand of electric vehicles multiplied by 5 at least by 2030. So it's massive. On the hydrogen chain, which is the second one, it's still nascent. We need the hydrogen production infrastructure, of course, but you also need the hydrogen station. So currently you have some 200 stations as pilot here in Europe, and the plan is to move them to 1,000 by 2030. So all in all, it's a lot of investments to which you need to add the digital infra investments which underpin all green solutions. So definitely a big infra development theme to monitor.
Thank you, Anne. Laurent, Anne just mentioned EV charging infrastructures, and Eurazeo is one of the leading investors on the market. You have recently invested in Electra, one of the leaders in the decarbonization of the mobility sector. How do you see their solution in terms of decarbonizing and playing a key role in the future?
Yes, thank you for the question. Hello, everybody. Effectively, Eurazeo has developed recently an investment strategy around infrastructure, but more precisely to decarbonize, well, investing in companies that will decarbonize essential services provided by infra, and transport is a very important theme. Just to set some numbers, when you look at the European carbon footprint, Europe emits about 800 million tons because of transport, and of that you have about 85%, which is linked to terrestrial transport. So it is very key that we invest in infrastructure that have a direct impact in reducing this carbon footprint. Khoi was mentioning it. Electrification of transport is a huge way to decarbonize, to the extent that effectively you generate electricity from decarbonated source. But then you need to put electricity in mainly cars, but also trucks, potentially green hydrogens, all depends on the use case. So you need to develop a network of charging points. That takes time, but what's interesting is that thanks to digital, you can efficiently manage these kind of networks today. So your different charging points act as one. And second, there's a question about usage. Will users transition towards electric cars? As you all know, I mean, the EU has banned any fossil fuel vehicle post-2035, so which signals to the users the change in their habits and moving into to electric cars. Hence why we have today backed the largest EV charging company there is in France, Electra, who has a small network but is developing fast. They also source their charging points through European companies, in particular an Austrian-based charging point manufacturer. And they have developed a digital overlay on the network to efficiently provide those services. So to answer your question, why have we backed Electra, management, digital, and also return on investment? Obviously, we are financial investors, and we look for financial returns, and that will come with Electra.
Thank you, Laurent. So we spoke about EV charging, and you also mentioned hydrogen as one of the key tools for the decarbonization. I'm going to turn to Valérie. Valérie, what about hydrogen? How will hydrogen play a key role in the decarbonization of the mobility sector?
Thank you, and good morning to all. You know, indeed, when you start digging into the subject, one will see that there is not one single solution, as always, and hydrogen is certainly part of the solution, even if we all know that there's a different type of hydrogen, and we are not there yet on the green hydrogen. To take a bit of a step back, why mobility is so key in the energy transition, because one should know that transport as a whole accounts for 1/5 of global CO2 emission. And if really we want to be on the path to the 1.5 degree limit, it means that we clearly need to find solution. And this is the key challenge. And the key challenge is indeed to attract investment and also to cope and to leverage on the regulation that will certainly support that. Obviously, with this journey, there will be different stages, and all those stages will fill one to the other. Obviously, it's great to have renewable energy, but we know that there's limitation. Why hydrogen? Because hydrogen has also the ability to store energy, and we know that this is specifically key here. And there will be also further investment and innovation required in order to fuel the more efficiency in that storage. But also the good thing with hydrogen is that obviously the byproduct is water. So in a sense, we have to care about the upstream, about making sure that we produce green hydrogen, but in a way we don't have to care about the downstream. And why hydrogen is so key into the infra development environment? Because as such, you know, production will need to be multiplied by 8 by 2050, and that will require obviously significant investment, both in terms of brownfield, but also in terms of retrofitting of existing infra, and that's all to transform and to achieve the smart mobility that for mass transport will be at the end of the day the turning point.
Merci Valérie. I'm delighted we have Sophie on the panel with us. Sophie is the CEO of Navya. Navya is one of the key players in the world in the turnkey self-driving solutions. I wanted to ask you how self-driving vehicles could play a role in the decarbonization of the mobility sector.
Yeah, thank you, Darko, with pleasure. Well, Navya is a global solution provider of automated transportation related to transporting people and transporting goods. And I think that it's a key point when we touch on digitalization and decarbonization, because we are inclusive and sustainable by transporting people and goods. I think that it's a perfect match and a perfect fit with the market driver. You know, we are all talking about demographic growth. We are all talking about future smart cities. We are talking about urban concentration. We are talking about traffic peaks and zero emission mobility. As a matter of fact, Navya is only based on electrical platform. The fleets are exclusively based on electrical platform, and soon it will be hydrogen technology. But for the time being, let's be focused. The second point is it's autonomous shuttle transporting people or transporting goods. It's a strong data collection. Why it's a strong data collection? Because more and more you go through experimentation, more and more you go through use case, more and more you implement and you increase and you adapt your software in order to be fully aligned with the demand and the expectation. For transporting people, it will be having a smooth braking system. It will be a demand-on-demand destination. And for transporting goods, it's about just in time. It's about being 24 hours around the clock, which is a really key point, because at this period of time, we are talking a lot on gap and lack of drivers. There is less and less people who wants to drive buses, who wants to drive trucks, and automated vehicle will be definitely an answer. It's for this reason that, you know, I would like just to share that 66% of vehicle emissions could be eliminated by having this transportation of people and transportation of goods. It means it's a huge contribution that we could bring with Navya as a key tech leader in this automated mobility. Well, and I think that it's also with the high connectivity, and we were talking about infrastructure, and I think that digitalization is directly interrelated with this high connectivity. It makes traffic, you know, simplify. It makes traffic more fluid. It makes traffic with securization, safety, safe journeys, and even more. You can create new spaces of freedom that you can imagine with this connectivity, high connectivity with infrastructure. And last but not least, on this digital aspect, we will have to think about remote supervision, because if you want to have seamless end-to-end process in terms of mobility, it will be more and more digitalization with supervision of fleets of vehicles. And creating optimal operating condition will deliver by the digitalization, the decarbonization.
Thank you, Sophie. So EV charging, hydrogen, digitalization, I mean, all of this is great, but I think that decarbonizing the mobility sector will be possible only if we invest in territories. So Olivier, could you please explain us your vision of the challenges that you face in the decarbonization of the territories in France?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, I can guarantee that it's now on top of the agenda of the territories, meaning the municipalities, the districts, the regions. As you know, we launched with BPI inside Caisse des Dépôts a very large 40 billion plan for 4 years, fighting against climate change, 20 billion for the private sector with the companies, led by BPI, and 20 billion led by Banque des Territoires. And as of now, 85% of our goal as regards to transport systems has been already implemented. So what do? We implement low-carbon transport systems. For instance, this month in Rennes, in Brittany, they opened a new line of metro. We're also talking about railways. We funded the extension of railways, the tram in Angers. We also are going to fund the new tram in Le Havre. So this is a kind of large infrastructure we're building. Another example is the relaunch of the high-speed train between Bordeaux and Toulouse, and southern of Bordeaux to the Spanish frontier. So this is kind of investment we're doing. So very big CapEx intensive infrastructure, but also low infrastructure. Talking about the car sharing or carpooling, or even, you know, shared e-bike or shared scooters, such as City Scoot, which is an investment of Banque des Territoires in Paris. Also, another aspect where we're working a lot, it's the decarbonization of the fleets of bus. They are operated by municipalities. So now what we can see, that's really biogas is a very mature technology, heavily used. I was in Rennes in Brittany. I was very surprised. You know, it's of course with a municipality that has a majority with left, traditional, and also ecologist. And I asked a question about hydrogen, and they told us, well, you know, we don't have enough water to afford hydrogen in Brittany, but the agriculture is very strong in Brittany, so we foster biogas. And this is really important to see that every solution needs to be adapted to its local territories and to understand what is really the drivers of each territories. And I was in Dijon, and in Dijon there was no problem with hydrogen. In Burgundy, obviously they got good ones, but they got also enough waters. And that was the choice of François Rebsamen. We see also strong deployment of e-vehicles and electrical buses, and we've been a large funder, financial solution providers for local authorities to move to electrical fleets.
Merci, Olivier. Anne, I'm coming back to you. We discussed tools and I would say opportunities in the infra sector to decarbonize the mobility. What about the industries? And we're going to need investments in industries, especially gigafactories, for example, in the context of EV charging. Could you tell us how BNP Paribas supports those industries?
Sure. So our Finance Minister this morning, Mr. Le Maire, mentioned being voluntarist and bold. And I think that as a bank, we were exactly that, because we were the first to advise and arrange the first gigafactory in Europe back in 2020, when the technology and the economics at scale were still to be confirmed. So it was a bit of a bet, an educated bet for sure, but it shows that right now, at this juncture, we all have collectively to take more risks than before. Technology, scale of projects, timing is still there 2 years after. We see that the gigafactory project we see coming still have those technology risks and all these uncertainties in terms of timing and volumes, plus some uncertainty on the supply of minerals. So it is testing their economics and business models. In spite of all those challenges, we know we have to move forward, and the industrials the first of all of us. So there is a race for capital, which is going to be massive, in the tune of 25 billion by the next decade. So as a bank, of course, we're there to help raise and organize this capital. So we, as a bank, have this integrated setup where we combine multi-sector and multi-product expertise, meaning that we blend expertise in energy, power, batteries, minerals. In terms of products, it's, of course, project finance, but also export finance, debt or equity capital markets, so that at all moments we are able to bring the best expertise to read markets and devise the best strategy in terms of financing. We also mentioned this new partnership to be found between private and public. And it's true that in many of those projects, because of the technology risk and size involved, we will see export credit agencies or multilaterals coming in as anchor investors in many of those projects. That's very helpful for us. Since you were mentioning our support to the industry, Gigafactory is just one piece of it. In BNP Paribas, we see new mobility as a whole value chain, and our strategy is really to focus on supporting every step of the value chain, meaning that beyond Gigafactories, we also finance the lithium, the first zero carbon lithium project in Europe, but we're also going to be a core and strategic banking partner for car manufacturers. We're also going to help corporate or individual end users at the end of this value chain because they need also to invest in EV chargers and the whole fleet. And for instance, which I find telling is that some corporates don't want to take the obsolescence technology risk related to the batteries or chargers. And then our subsidiary in Light Leasing will come and provide leasing solutions to those corporates, and so also supporting in that the EV value chain. So very interesting developments for us.
Thank you, Anne. Laurent, as an investor, what industries and sectors have you identified as key for investments from a perspective of decarbonizing the mobility sector?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it all depends how you look at it and what you think when you say key. I think we all agree that we have to invest in a way that will decarbonize our future, in the way we will transport ourselves, in the way we will exchange goods. And what we have at Eurazeo is quite a powerful platform where we can look at different situations, either from an infra standpoint, but maybe from also a technology standpoint, or from an industrial standpoint, even from a tech standpoint. And we can approach the issue of decarbonization in a very holistic manner. We can invest in a company at early stage seed with more VC funds. And then when the company has started to grow, we can back it with either growth capital or with infra capital. At the end of the day, we are investors, we are financial investors, and we look for return. So we look for medium to long-term return. And that's what focuses the mind with us. And even with the infra strategy that I'm looking at, what I see fascinating is that at the end of the day, it's a question of energy. So we use energy to transport. We have to generate this energy. And there are also synergies within our portfolio. We have invested into Electra that will distribute electricity to electric vehicles, but Electra will need to source this electricity somewhere. We have invested end of last year into a solar PV business that generates electricity. So currently in the market, you've seen the electricity market at all-time high, but at the end of the day, I see it where it's a question of at what cost can you generate electricity? That's where you will be competitive. Today, we generate electricity from solar at 20, 30 euros south of France. Iron is 45, and you have nuclear in the UK at 100 euros. So that gives you about the kind of cost to generate electricity. That's where we should be when we're going to provide electricity to Electra. So maybe one of our generating company of electricity will provide electricity to Electra that will distribute it to cars. So that's so in conclusion, I would say what is key is supporting transition in a sustainable way, and sustainability being also in a where we make a financial return. And we approach it from a holistic standpoint at Eurazeo group level, but also at our level. So that's what drives our investment decisions.
Thank you, Laurent. Valérie, we're at the beginning of a new adventure with the hydrogen, and it's going to require significant investments. What type of projects or industries would HSBC be able to finance, and on the basis of which criteria?
Thank you. I think that if we look back, if we look at all the criteria and the basis for make genuine decision, obviously the first point and the important one is the public commitment and the public spending, and we cannot have this discussion today without referring back to what was announced by our Prime Minister a few days ago regarding the France Hydrogen Plan, with clearly the ambition to make France as the leader of the green hydrogen. And this is important. This is important because it sets the scene, it sets the ambition, and it gives the adequate visibility on all the value chain that we need to be created in order to, at the end of the day, have hydrogen be used by the end user. This visibility is also why, and that was referred several times this morning, HSBC was quite keen at participating at the Fast Infra labeling project, which was created in 2020, and now, you know, much more being reality with what was announced by our minister, Mr. Le Maire, this morning. Why that? Because we think that labeling framework will be one of the key pillars in order to attract financing and in order to have the proper governance around labeling and around ESG financing. And then, you know, obviously, why a focus on hydrogen, and is hydrogen already there today or will it be there tomorrow? I tend to think that we need a kind of virtuous cycle and not, you know, come into the chicken and egg dilemma. We know that as far as mobility is concerned, for example, we have already hydrogen train working. You know, Alstom has recently had an hydrogen train in Germany for 1,000 kilometer autonomy. Airbus has also made public that they are committed to the hydrogen aircraft by 2035. So in a sense, you know, OEM are playing their part. And this is also why, from an HSBC point of view, if we look at the fact that we are obviously committed to net zero for ourselves and for our supply chain by 2030, but moreover, we are committed by 2050 for our all scope 3 to be net zero, which means that we also have a duty to make sure that our own client will transition. And in order for all clients to transition, sure, we need infra, but we need all the value chains. So we are out of the view that by combining fast infra label, by making sure, and I agree with you, Laurent, that we need to have economic viability on any project. Depends what is the maturity at which you are looking at the economic viability. By having offtake and by having partnership within all the ecosystem, we will find a way to make sure that financing will be there. You know, the first roundtable this morning was quite clear. There are a lot of liquidity available. We simply, in a sense, need to direct it to where it makes sense from an economic point of view.
Merci Valérie. You mentioned the value chain. It's exactly one of the questions I wanted to ask Sophie about. So in terms of value chain, what is needed to be able to deploy self-driving solutions in a significant way?
Thank you, Darko. What is really needed to structure this value chain into automated vehicle? It's to be able to answer to the demand. It's to be able to be time to market, and it's to be able to provide the right solution. Being able to provide the right solution when we are talking about autonomous shuttles transporting people and goods, it's about talking no operator. It means definitely no driver anymore. and it's also being able to be zero emission. It's for this reason that you have to be very customer-centric in order to understand the use case and in order to be able to implement your algorithm and your software to deliver the right mission profile. It's for this reason that we have 220 vehicles in the world, currently in 26 countries, and we have multiple cases. We have the army, we have a prisons, we have industries, we have garden parks, we have a university, and so and so. And you know, at the end, you are providing a solutions. You are not providing just bricks, you are providing a solutions. And if you provide a solution, you have to understand your customers and to deliver. But on top of that, talking about value chain is also a way to capture value. And I think that what we did in 2008, when we were not ready for the battery, we were just looking into the battery element. Today, Navya is talking about solutions. What does it mean? It means that you have to partner along the value chain with a key player who are able to develop these solutions. It's for this reason that we are working with a lot of partners in order to have the best calculators, such as Valeo, which is an historical shareholder, the best people who are transporting, you know, such as Keolis, which is also a historical shareholder. And I am just saying that because if we want to keep the value in France, if we want to grab the value, we have to partner and to connect the dot with local player. Navya, it's a French company with only 300 people at this time, but all of our supplier base is also French. And it's really key to grab value when we talk about value chain. And it's also really key to build the right ecosystem for the right business model. Typically, when we are talking about pricing, you have to think financing of this new kind of vehicle. If you think about experimentation and tomorrow industrialization and scale up, the idea is also to partner with the best one in order to be able to put your autonomous driving pack into the OEM's assembly line. It's for this reason that one of our strategic partners also is Bolloré, and before end of the year we will have a 6-meter Blobus with no operator operating for autonomous mobility. And it's for this reason that, you know, structuring the value chain, know where we have to capture value. And perhaps one last point, data sovereignty. Because, you know, there is OEMs who are partnering with Waymo. Great, but Waymo, it's a US company. The sovereignty of data, we will be not anymore in France. Or we are small, but at Navya, we are building our software, we are building our code source, and we are able to develop our artificial intelligence, and all of the data is known by Navya. And I think that value chain ecosystem is also being able to build in France the data sovereignty and the complete solutions for the future.
So I was not the only one excited by what you said. Great. Thank you, Sophie. Olivier, my last question will be for you. Obviously, the financial support brought by Banque des Territoires is key for the decarbonization of the mobility sector. Could you perhaps tell us a little bit more about the tools that you use to accompany the energy transition in the sector of mobility?
Yeah, thank you. But I want to insist on the point raised by Sophie, because we are here, you know, in the Minister of Industrial Sovereignty, but also digital sovereignty. And those of you who know my fight for the data and for the European sovereignty as regards internet know that is a very, very important point. And the fact that we're addressing, there was a job at the topic where we're going to manipulate a huge amount of data. And if all those data are floating away on AWS, Azure, or Google, probably the sovereignty will not be here. So this is really a major point. Thank you, Sophie, for raising it. Coming back to the tools we're developing at Banque des Territoires, well, you know, it's bonds and investment. We're a bank, but very special. I mean, we're working with all of you, which are the actors in the markets. So what is the interest going to Banque des Territoires? It's when you are looking for very long-term loans. We're talking about 40 years. And we do not do that because we are talented. It's just because we've got this very special resource, which is the livret A, very special in France. Which, you know, it's a resource that is a day-to-day resource with a guarantee of the state, co-led by Minister of Economy, and we are able to make very long-term loans. In the real estate, we make 80 years loans. And for transport and mobility, we decided, well, you know, when a municipality is going to invest into long-term infrastructures, there's no way to fund it by a 7 years bond. We can do that with 40 years. So that's one way of helping the territories to move to a decarbonated transport. The other is to identify, you know, some failure in the markets where we need to have this global ecosystem that you were mentioning, the chicken and egg problem. I'll give you an example. In large cities, they need to go to the low fuel emission area, which is the center of the city where they want to avoid diesel vehicles and to avoid to have distribution, delivery of e-commerce, where it's going to put a lot of pollution inside Central. When they do that, it's good. But all the mayors I met, and I met them every week, tell me, well, you know, it's pretty hard because the deliverers, traditional deliverers of the craftsmen, they got all diesel vehicles. And they cannot afford to buy an electrical utilitarian vehicles. So we set up with the La Poste, who is managing the largest fleet of electrical vehicles, a company called Movivolt, to start a long-term rental for utilitarian vehicles. And that is providing solutions. Another solution is about e-charging. When you're living in your house, it's not a problem to have your own e-charging. When you're living in a residential house, it's a whole mess, you know, to come and to ask for putting electric charging on the parking, on the common parking. So we set up another company, which is a 100% affiliate of Banque des Territoires, called Logivolt, who is going to fund it, and it's really a success. We've got something like 1,000 demands for something like 30,000 e-charging. And we decided last week, there was a big announcement, there was a big congress of all the social housing. And you know, social housing is very important in France. It's 5 million houses related to social housing, so it's one home out of 6 approximately, and we decided it was time to extend this solution to the social housing, because now we see that electrical vehicles are only, you know, Tesla for the rich people. It starts to be also people who want to take their part to the decarbonization. So we needed to have this type of solutions. So in a nutshell, to conclude, we're providing very long terms where the market doesn't go, and we invest in solutions where we see that there is a market failure. And for the rest, you know, we are happy to let the marketplace, and it's good, as you said it, there are a lot of liquidity, there are a lot of interest, there are lots of innovation, thank you to Navya, to take that challenge, which is a key challenge for the planet.
Merci, Olivier. I personally believe that innovation is one of the key words for the future, and I think that the countries that will invest in innovation will come stronger out of this period that the world is going through. Obviously, in order to innovate, we need young people, young talents, and you will see some of them at the InfraNextGen Award in a couple of minutes. We need money, and you all said that you'd be happy to invest in innovative projects and innovative solutions, and we need regulations that are adapted to secure investments and financier. And unfortunately, I think that we're not there yet in terms of regulations, and that obviously this is a topic that we should tackle very fast in order not to be running late in comparison with other countries and competitors. Well, thank you very much all. It's been a pleasure to moderate this panel. And apologies for the pin, but we still have a long way and a long road to achieve the decarbonizing the mobility sector. Thank you. Right on time.